Story 1. Still sleeping with a blanket, no matter how hot it is. There is just something about being wrapped up that makes me feel safe and cozy, like a little kid again. Story 2. When I am sick in any capacity, I purchase a bottle of Lucozade Original. The reason for this is my dad is a former Navy serviceman, and he was taught at a young age that it tastes the same coming back up as it does going down. Thus, it was passed on to me, and it is a habit I cannot break. Story 3. Separate the foods on my plate so they do not touch. Eat my candy by color and flavor, such as Skittles and gummy bears. Save the best thing to eat for last. Story 4. Whenever I am really focused or nervous, I still stick my tongue out slightly, just like when I was learning to write in kindergarten. My husband caught it on video during our wedding vows and now teases me about it constantly. Story 5. Sucking my thumb while going to bed, and sometimes I cuddle with my childhood stuffed animal. It's soothing. Story 6. This might sound really weird, but when I was a little kid, I used to think that if I wore my shirt down like how you would normally wear a shirt while I was using the restroom, then it would get stains on it. So, I always used to ride it up and hold it throughout the whole process. Now, every time I use the restroom, I still do that, even though I know it is obviously not true. Story 7. I have the unusual habit of taking naps before going to sleep. By which I mean, imagine I want to go to sleep around midnight. I will usually take a short 30 to 40-minute nap around 10:30 p.m. or 11 p.m., during which I keep my headphones on and listen to music or audiobooks until I fall asleep. Then I wake up, and depending on the time, I will do something before finally going to sleep. Story 8. This is a little weird, and I got made fun of for it, but I always had quite the vivid imagination and still sometimes rub my fingertips together vigorously, with my hand in somewhat of a claw posture while fantasizing, especially when I think about something busy or hectic like a spaceship battle. It really gives texture to my thoughts. Story 9. When I was younger, Big Macs were bigger than the ones we have today. I had to eat them in sections. I do not eat them often, but when I do, I still eat them in sections. I have never eaten a Big Mac as a sandwich. I might try that one day. Story 10. I used to sneak around my house as a child, on the balls of my feet like tiptoeing. Usually, it would be because I was trying not to wake my parents if I snuck into the kitchen for a snack late at night. I still consistently walk around the house balancing myself with my heels ever so slightly lifted off the ground. It feels strange to walk with my feet slapping everywhere at home. I am in my mid-30s now. Story 11. Pick my fingernails. Pick my lips. Pick my scabs. All to the point of bleeding sometimes. Yes, I am not formally diagnosed, but my doctor wants me to be tested for autism. However, that is expensive at 26 years old. Story 12. Music is a big part of my life. I had a few times where I listened to the same artist 2 days in a row before school. I would have a bad day on the second day. I created a rule that I can't listen to the same artist 2 days in a row before school. This rule is still in effect today. The rules have changed a bit over the years. Say I listen to the Beatles one morning. I can listen to Paul McCartney or George Harrison the next morning since it is not technically the Beatles. Logically, I know it does not make any sense, but it makes me feel better. Story 13. Biting my nails. I have tried so many times to break the habit, but at 43 years old and still doing it, I am obviously losing the battle. Story 14. Overchewing food, because when I was little, I used to watch George of the Jungle and Mr. Bones on a single small plate of food. Nowadays, I chew for a long time, even when I am late for something. Story 15. I cut up all my food before eating it. If I have a steak, I will cut it into cubes before I start eating. I do not want to do my homework while enjoying my meal. I want to do it after. Story 16. I look for four-leaf clovers whenever I see a big cluster of clover, especially if it is in my own backyard. One day I will find one. Story 17. I still pretend I'm some kind of YouTuber or streamer and talk to my audience when I do tasks or play games. It helps me focus. Story 18. When I am seriously engaged in something or hyper-focused, I tend to stick my tongue out and rest it on my upper lip. Story 19. I am not sure what this is or how exactly to explain it, but I draw shapes in my head. usually interlocking triangles, perfectly symmetrical, and with as little overlap on the lines as I can manage. It is like my brain's screensaver. Story 20. I collect rocks. I started collecting them at 4 years old. I see a shiny rock, and I have to restrain myself from taking it home. Do not take me to a crystal store because I will hunt for any rock that is not already in my collection. Story 21. I cannot leave the house unless I use the restroom. It doesn't matter if I just used the restroom 5 minutes ago. I better go again just in case. Similarly, when I am leaving a place where I have been for at least an hour to go to another location or home. Story 22. Whenever I have a packed lunch, I always eat it in the order of sandwich, whatever sweet snack, and crisps. I didn't think anything of it until someone else said they always have the sweet snack last because it's like having dessert after a main course. I just like eating my favorite snack at the end, which happens to be the crisps. Also, I always have to drink water when I'm eating chocolate. Story 23. Picking my nails. I know nail biting is a common habit, but I have almost never heard of people picking their nails. Story 24. Making sure that whenever I walk up or downstairs, I have to take the last step with my right foot. I will do a stance switch midway as I am counting the stairs to ensure I always land on my right foot. Story 25. Being sent to my room as a punishment soon became a reward because I had my books. I still go to my room to read. Story 26. Seeking validation. The therapist pointed it out to me. I didn't realize how often I did it. As I left his office, I asked him how I did. I did it again. Story 27. Count down from 20 in my head to give myself 20 seconds of extra procrastination time and a fixed deadline before starting the thing I really need to do but do not want to. Story 28. I probably have plenty, but I have been rereading Shoeless Joe, the book that became Field of Dreams, every March, and Something Wicked This Way comes every October for about 30 years now. It has just become a tradition at this point. Story 29. I pick at my lips. They haven't gotten infected, surprisingly, but I have done it so much that it's scary how I know how not to make them bleed. Story 30. For as long as I can remember, I have had to flex or clench my toes every few seconds, like blinking my eyes. Story 31. Completely shut down when people yell and fight. I have to leave even now at age 35. If I hear a couple arguing or someone screaming at their children, I get so triggered and have to get away. Story 32. I remember the moment one of my obsessive-compulsive disorder behaviors started when I was 7. I am 40 now, and it is still an everyday part of my life. I count the letters in words, constantly seeking 10-letter words. It is quite unusual, and I cannot stop. Story 33. 2 things. Reading when I should be working on something and disliking most vegetables, so I avoid them as much as I can. Leave me with a book and peas or carrots, or I think I am being mistreated by the cosmos. Story 34. Talk to myself as if I am having a genuine conversation with someone else in the room. When I get a bug bite, I make an indentation with my fingernail to make it feel like a Phillips head screw. Story 35. I still have intense daydreams where I walk around my room and talk to myself. I think there is a name for it. Story 36. Still write in a journal. I started when I was in elementary school. I have been at it for close to 30 years. Story 37. I still wake up at about 3 to 4 a.m. on Christmas morning. It was something I did as a child, where I would get up, get my presents, and open them in my room when I realized I could not do it quietly in the living room. Even when my friends and I celebrate the day or several days beforehand, or if I will not be seeing any other people until later in the morning or afternoon, I will still wake up around 3:30 or so. Story 38. I have always loved marshmallow peeps. You would figure at some point you would grow out of the enjoyment of eating pure sugar with an additional dusting of granulated sugar on the outside. But no, I will love them until the day I die. It helps that they are manufactured not that far away from where I lived most of my life because I like supporting local companies that are not huge conglomerates. Story 39. I will eat a piece of Oscar Mayer bologna straight out of the package, and I will bite a smiley face into it. Story 40. There was a movie called Darkness Falls that I watched as a kid, where the tooth fairy would come for you in the dark, And if you looked at her, she would kill you. I made it a habit to sleep with my face towards the wall and my covers over my head, so that if she was there, I wouldn't see her. If she did take me, at least I wouldn't have to see it coming. It was kind of the same feelings I had for War of the Worlds when the probe checked the basement. 8-year-old me wasn't taking any chances getting caught and killed. Now it's just the most comfortable way for me to sleep. Story 41. Eat in a circle. I do not even start with the good or bad items first. I just eat all of one thing before moving on to the next item on the plate. Story 42. Sleeping with my comfort pillow. I have since the day I was born. If I don't have it with me, I don't get a good night's sleep. I bite my nails. I pick my nose. I hold long conversations with myself. I make random noises when concentrating very hard. Story 43. I suck on my finger or thumb sometimes still. It's just relaxing, I don't know, man. And don't worry, I never do it if I haven't washed my hands right before, and I wash them afterwards. Story 44. It took conscious effort to break the habit of bouncing my leg when sitting down. You know, the one slightly propped on the ball of the foot with the shin and calf going crazy. Story 45. Life is a musical. We really do break out in song. Depending on the song, people very well might even join in with choreographed dance. Story 46. After an incident where I tripped over a door frame that caused my toes to split, I have developed the habit of curling my toes as if I am cracking them. I am not sure why I do it because of that. I am also a bit of a nose picker who eats the boogers. I apologize if I made you think of that. Story 47. Must close the closet door, or the clown might get me, or I won't be able to sleep because the clown might get me. I'm not even afraid of clowns, but that door has to be closed. I'm 42. My boyfriend thinks this is so funny that he opens the door every night and says, "Good night, buddy," and I really love it. Story 48. When I am stomach sick, I make a nest on the bathroom floor and sleep there. I used to do this when I drank too because I knew it would end badly every time. Also, I rub the top part of my foot on the bed sheets when I get nauseous. 60% of the time, it works every time. Story 49. I still sleep with a stuffed animal. It is not about being scared or anything. It is just comforting, like a little piece of childhood I can hold on to. Plus, it is a great pillow for impromptu naps. Does anyone else still have a childhood comfort item they cannot let go of? Story 50. Take a bath, not a shower, before bed. I bite my nails and eat my food in sections, saving the best for last, like eating all my vegetables, then my fries, then the macaroni and cheese, and lastly the burger. Story 51. I literally just stopped brushing my hair from the roots down. My hair is so much better. It was making a ripping sound, and I had a ton of hair in my brush. My hair is long, healthy, soft, shiny, and has no split ends. Story 52. I like to rub my feet together. I have done that for comfort and relaxation since as long as I can remember. Story 53. Whenever I get an uneasy feeling before going to bed, like someone is watching me for whatever reason, I do this weird gesture that I use to ward off evil. The originality of the thought was due to my favorite book series, Percy Jackson. They do a 3-finger claw above the chest and reach outward. I included other things that I thought were safe, turning it into a Son, Father, Holy Spirit cross, 3-finger claw, and finger kiss to the sky hybrid. It makes me feel better for some really odd reason. Story 54. Biting the insides of my cheeks. I don't remember when or why I started doing it, but I still catch myself at 30 doing it multiple times a day. Story 55. I shake most liquids before I pour. We grew up poor on welfare, and powdered milk was how we got milk. You had to shake it vigorously to get the lumps out. Story 56. Randomly imagine what it feels like to have Wolverine claws tearing through my wrists, criticizing how it doesn't make sense where they would sit when inside my forearms because twisting my forearms wouldn't work with 3 swords in there. Considering how bad the anchoring would be for the claws once they are out, 1 slash could easily rip them out without a strong anchor. I wonder how the index to middle knuckle claw would even come out. I mean, the claw is supposed to be straight and unbending, but the wrist doesn't work like that. I have been ranting in my head about this problem for a while when bored. Story 57. Very recently, I bought an earring that I found cute, unique, and special. Instead of keeping it with my other earrings, I set it apart and away from everything else, so much so that I sometimes forget I even have it. It is a bit strange, but I used to do this with the things I adored in my childhood as well. Story 58. It is hard to explain, but as a comfort thing, I still squeeze clothing material on my nails or make a fold in the material before digging it into my cuticles. Story 59. If I don't make it to this location before that person reaches the destination, I'll die. Story 60. I hunch over my food and inhale it as quickly as possible. My brother and I were wild at the table, and in middle and high school I only had a 20-minute lunch. I gobble my food before someone else does because I need to get it in me before class. I have managed to slow the inhale in public situations, but do not try to speak to me when I am eating. My brain shuts off and goes into consume mode. And do not touch my plate while I am actively eating. I am not responsible for what happens to you. Story 61. Mixing food and saying okay versus okay. Also playing dumb in front of a crush. My friends are burning through matches on dating applications, while that is just not my thing. That leaves in person, which trust me, I am quite nerdy, but with the double negative of being bad at academics. Story 62. I touch my partner's nose and I experience an insane amount of pleasure by doing that. It calms down my nervous system, and I can do it for hours, caressing it and rubbing it. I got into a lot of trouble with this habit as a child since I didn't know boundaries. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.